All right, everyone, I have shared a link in the chat box.
Yes, I
Uh,
got it. Got it.
yeah, so please open this link and you should be able to copy that file actually. You will need to do something like this. When you open the file, go to the file, all right, and then save a copy in Drive. You will see another copy there. You can start working on that file actually. Okay, click on that link and then go to file and click on save a copy in Drive. That copy will be workable for you. Let me know when everybody is able to start and when everybody is able to make a copy and they can start working on it. In the chat box, just write that, okay, you have created a copy if you have. All right, looks like most of the people have created a copy of it. They can start working on it. So there is this window key plus left sign. If you type, you can go in, you can have a one window in the left side and another one in the right side. You can just adjust your windows if you just have single screen.
So can you please tell the shortcut for double screen?
You click on one window like this anywhere, and then windows, window sign, and then left. It's going to create a half side there. Okay, and then other screen, you just click on it and then do the window and then right, so it will go into the right side of the screen. Are you able to do that?
Yes, sir, done.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So in the two screen, you can just see your code side and the my explanation part also, the Zoom video. All right.
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay. So far we have reached to the count and then finding something in a string. Okay. Now let's make some changes to the string. So to change, we have a function called dot replace. Okay. Replace, the first argument we are going to pass whatever we want to replace. And the second part is going to be what we want to replace it with. Okay. So if I execute this, my text exactly which I printed first, which is to infinity and beyond, and then I was able to replace infinity with earth. All right. So this is how replace is going to work on text lines. So far, any questions? No, right? We can move on then. Okay. So next thing we are going to try is something called string concatenation and then outputs. Okay. So there is a simple way we can concatenate strings using just the plus sign. Okay. For example, I have one name, name Stan, and then I have name to Kyle. Okay. I can exactly use this part to concatenate this. Okay. Just plus sign, and both the strings are going to be combined together. Okay. But I need to put a space and comma or anything else, so I want to put in there. So for example, if I want to put a space, I will empty string, I will put in here, and I will put a space there, a plus sign before it and plus sign after that thing, and this way I will see a space there. If I want to put a comma there, I will use a comma in between. So this is how I'll be able to use concatenate or simple plus sign to concatenate two strings or multiple strings also. So right now there are three strings which are at work. First is name one, which is also a string, which is 10, and then second string is one comma and then space. This is another second string, and the third string is name two. All right, so multiple strings I can just combine here. Okay, I want to add an exclamation mark here, for example. I will just add a string, and inside it I'm going to write exclamation. Now if I print it, I'm going to have Stan comma Kyle and then exclamation. Here I have concatenated multiple strings together at once. All right, now string formatting, this is the output way. There are basically three ways of doing string formatting.
Sir,
Yes, please ask question.
what is the difference between like addition and concatenation?
No, there is none. Basically, with addition, you can just add multiple at once together, but with the single concatenation, you will have to append one at a time. So I prefer to use the plus sign here. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to explain only. Okay.
Okay, so with plus sign we can add multiple strings.
Yes.
So that is the benefit, and with concat option we can add only two.
Yes.
That is the limitation.
Yes.
Okay, thank
So
you.
mostly plus sign is perfectly fine to use everywhere. Okay, just use plus sign and we should be fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next part, let's try with the formatting. Anybody has any question till this part again? So if they do, they can ask again, because this is pretty simple part. I thought this was discussed already. Anyway, all right, let's move to the next part, which is string formatting. So this is actually output part. This is called like string IO thing. Okay, so there are three ways basically, but one way is the classic way, which I have removed from it because it's not that amazing to look at and amazing to work at. It's not that clean. These two ways are the Python way. Okay, after Python 3, they have given these two new ways to work with the strings, and these are pretty good ways to do that. So for example, if I want to use a whole big string, okay, and I want to type in these places I want to fill with something. Okay, for example, here I had to fill like with plus. Okay, there I had to use like 3 pluses to make the whole sentence. Okay, if the sentence was quite big, then it would have been very difficult for me to just keep writing plus. All right, but here I can use this. I can type the whole string that I want to write. Okay, and then wherever I want to fill it with two variables which I have assigned as strings, I can just use the two curly braces. Okay, and then at the end I can use dot format, and in this sequence or in this particular order, I can just type in the name of the variables I want to fill in. For example, this is my first curly braces bracket place. I want to put name here. So this is going to be the continuation. The first position is going to take name 1. The second empty position is going to take name 2. And if I execute it, I will see a whole string Stan and Kyle were returning home. So this is how we are able to use something called string formatting. All right. There is another method where we have removed the use of format altogether. What we can do is when we are starting a string, okay, just before that we can write something, this special character F, all right, and then in the string, wherever we had to write the curly braces and then we had to follow the continuation in the format function, we don't have to do that. This automatically becomes a function. Now we can just pass in the name 1 here and name 2 there, and we're returning home. And this is going to be my perfectly formatted string. All right. Anybody has any question here?
Sir, what's
Yes.
the difference between concatenation, addition, and formatting?
So concatenation is basically if you have if you have name 1, you will be able to concatenate name 2 behind it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And then when you are using the plus sign, it's also called concatenation most of the time, but you are using the special character plus here. Okay. So plus works spatially on the strings in string manner. So plus works differently for strings. Plus is going to work differently for integers. Plus is going to work different for the list also. So it's going to be different methodology for every kind of data type that we are using. So for string, it just adds the new string to it, just behind it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
you
what
can
about the formatting?
So formatting, when you have a whole big string, okay, inside some places you want to just add your name. For example, if you have a sentence where you want to keep changing something there, okay. So for example, here I have that, okay, Stan and Kyle were returning home. What if I have a new name like name 3, okay, and this is Cartman. All right. I want to say the name. This time, not Kyle and Stan. Cartman was returning with Stan. Okay. So I just take the name 3 and I can just replace it here. So this will give me a final output as name with name 3. So Stan and Cartman were returning home. So inside a string, we can pass any variable here. Got it?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, here's the magical thing also, that we can pass, for example, we have this sentence here, f string. Okay, for example, right now I have assigned a new variable which is age, that's 13 here. Okay, so if I want to print this whole sentence that okay, Kyle is 13-year-old, so I have given the variable age which I can pass in the sentence here, and this will give me a string as Stan is 13-year-old because the name one is Stan. You understood? So
Okay,
we
sir.
can pass
So,
any variables in here.
okay, sir. So, can in this formatting thing, can we use that plus symbol over here?
Yes, we can actually. So what happens is this is whole thing is a string right now. Okay. Now if you want to pass a plus sign, so I can just write in plus here. Okay. Now if I want to add like name 3 here, okay, for example here, like this name 3. All right. If I execute it, it's going to just take this as a
Okay.
string again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
But we have to pass it outside of the string. Okay.
Okay.
So what happened here is the Cartman is fine. Okay. If I type in here as age again, okay, this might give us an error. Why? Because this is not a string anymore. So plus string and numbers cannot be added together.
Okay.
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 We have to be careful of that. So to solve this problem, there is something called typecasting. Okay. So age is an integer right now. Okay. Let's say age is an integer. We want to add the integer here, age also again here. Okay. So to convert that, we have to type something called typecasting. We have to convert the integer into a string. So we are going to do str of the age here, and we are going to run it. So this is going to work fine for us. Okay. So better example would be when we are using this kind of situation is going to be here, name 1. Okay. And when we have age here, what we can do here is str age. No, it shouldn't work here. For that, str age, this, then plus, then we will need to use again plus here and like this. So this would have been a very big problem for us to change the sentence like this. Earlier,
Yes,
we were
sir.
able to just pass in the 2 variables in between and it should have been
Yes.
fine
Yes.
for us. All right.
Okay.
So
Understood.
that's,
Understood.
yeah, that's why we are using the f string or format strings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So without declaring a variable, we cannot use string formatting.
Without declaring, yes. So we have to declare the variable before it, because in the string formatting, when we are using the f strings, we have to pass that variable in between, right? So we have to save that variable before. Otherwise, how are you going to call that variable there? Because in this parentheses, everything is a variable. All right. This is going to be typecasted into a string. That's what's happening.
Okay, sir.
All right. We have to define it before. This variable can be anything. It can be integer. It can be a float. All right. It's just going to just convert into a string. Okay. So far we have done the conceptually we have understood 2 new things. First one is indexing. Indexing means that the position of a character in a string. Okay. Another one is slicing. Slicing is that pulling out a part of the whole string, starting from one position and ending at other position. Understood? And in the slicing part, there is a counting. We have to understand that starts from the number whatever we have given. Okay, first we have given, then it's going to start with the position first, and the ending position is going to be n-1, where whatever position we have given here, it's going to be stopping one before this. All right, hopefully this part is clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's move to the numerical data. So in Python, there are two kind of numerical numbers. One are integral and another one is non-integral. Okay. So integer is basically the integer based number. Okay. Because they are fixed number. For example, if you have 5, okay, this is a fixed number. We don't need any spatial way to represent it. But there is something called float number, which are not integral because they need a different kind of representation where we have to use a point there. Okay, so we have integer and floats. In Python, we don't have to worry about the data types a lot. It takes care of it automatically the way you type it. It's dynamically typed in some way. So we have x equal to 5 that we can assign. We can print it. We can see the type of the x, what type it is, and then we can see the type of another data type which you have typed 2 dot. So if we put in a point here, it's going to convert it into a float number. All right, then basic math operation we can use. X plus 2 we can do, the minus we can do, multiply with the star, and then divide with the divide sign. Okay, and there are some important other mathematical operation, which is double star means that we are adding a power, so it's going to be called as power. Okay, so it's the power of 2. So what I'm doing here is x square. Okay, then we have floor division, double divide sign. If we have, then it's going to be floor division, and then we have percent sign, which is going to give us the remainder. And then we can do multiple operations like this. We have to BODMAS way we have to follow, but here we are going to just use everywhere the parentheses to separate those things. All right, so if we execute it, we can see each and every mathematical operation on integers or floats. Anybody has any questions?
So
Yes.
what is floor division? That part is not clear.
Yeah,
Means
so
what
floor,
exactly it's giving?
yes, exactly. We'll see that this one also. Okay, so the floor division is something like this. Okay, 25 divided by 2. What should be the answer here? If I do divide by 2. 12.5, right? So if I execute it, it's not going to give me 12.5. It's going to give me 12. So floor division means that it's going to give me the lowest, yeah, the integer which is in the lower
Yeah,
side
so
of it.
it is giving the ceiling value, right?
Yes, it's giving the floor value, not ceiling value. Ceiling value here would be 13. Okay.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So it's going to give us the floor value.
okay, okay, got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
So this is called floor division. All right. So %2 is going to give us a remainder. For example, if we divide 5 by 2, the remainder is going to be 1. All right. And then multiple operation we can do with the parentheses at correct places. So don't do like this. Okay. Try to have your code cleaner as possible. So use parentheses as much as possible when you are doing mathematical operations on integers or any numbers. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So earlier there is one more thing in Python 2 or previous version of even Python 3, it was like this. If we divide by 5 by 2, it would give us not 2.5, it would give us 2. So now this has been changed. If anybody has used the older version of Python, they will find it this part is new. Okay, next one is incrementals. So incrementals work like this. We have a number given, okay? And for incrementals, what we can do is we want to perform a operation there with 2. For example, I have a number 5. Let me change it. For example, I have a number here. Number, I want to perform an operation. The number equal to number plus 2. I want to perform this operation. I want to add 2 to this number and want to save this number back. Okay. So this, what I'm doing is I'm getting a answer as 4. Here, the same thing I can do with incremental operation. This stands like this. Here, plus sign, minus sign, divide sign or multiply sign we can use here, and it's going to give us the exact same thing. So now the value of 7 number has changed to 7. All right, this is a short form of this operation that you see here. Both the statements are same. This is used when we are using some sort of loops mostly. All right. Anybody has any question till here?
No, sir.
All right, perfect. Okay, so few more operations on float we will try to see, or the integers we will try to see. There are few functions which we are going to use extensively. One is absolute. Absolute is going to give us the absolute value, which is basically the positive value, right? Then we have round. It's going to give us the round value. Okay, it's going to be upper ceiling or lower ceiling, doesn't matter. It's going to take care of it automatically. If it's above 0.5, it's going to go upper value, and if it's below the ceiling value, and if it's below the 0.5, it's going to give us the floor value. Okay, and then in the round we have another parameter we can pass in, which is after the comma, which is going to give us the how many decimals do we want. So we want 2 decimals after point. So round is going to give us 2 decimal, and after that it's going to round it for us. This part clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
perfect. So we did some casting in, next we will move to the casting. We did some casting in some small example here, where we converted a number to a string before. Okay, for example, if we have an integer like 6, okay, so number equal to 6, okay, and if you type in type of number is integer. Okay, so there's something called typecasting that we can do. So what typecasting can help us do is, so type, if I want to convert this number into a string, I can do that. All right, so now the type of, if we just use the str, the number is going to be converted into a string. Okay, and if we execute it and if we see the output also, it's going to be a bit different. It's going to be denoted as a string because we can see the quote signs before and after it. Okay, this is called casting.
So what about float? If
Yeah,
we
float
want
also, any, yes, both things.
No, sir, I mean integer to float.
From integer to float, we don't have to do it. Mostly Python is going to take care of it. Okay, you can do that float also.
Sir, one question.
Yes.
So casting is only, the purpose of casting is only to change the data type or something else also?
That's it, mostly to change the data type so we can perform operation on it.
So
Right.
for changing a data type, we have another function that is called as type.
Yes, as type mostly we tried. It's not the default Python
NumPy.
function. It's for
NumPy.
NumPy and the pandas function.
Okay, not
Okay.
for general purpose. It was not
General
used.
purpose, we try not to use that. Only the string can help us.
Okay, okay, okay.
All right.
What about date?
Yeah, that's also a pandas function. Date type that we have .dt. That's also a Python function. It's already existing, but it comes from a package, date type package. So it's not default one. All right,
sir,
and
it's
that
clear.
works mostly. Date time mostly work for pandas. We use that for pandas. Okay. So what is the use of typecasting? Okay, we will see that. Okay, so here we have a number 200. These both the numbers are written as strings now. Okay, 200 is as a string and 500 is as a string. If I do the plus with n1 and n2, it's not going to return me anything good. It's going to return me something like this, 200 and 500, because they are strings and they have been written. The addition has worked as a concatenation, not an addition. Now I need to parse it, or I need to typecast it to an integer so I can perform the mathematical operation on it. All right, this is how it's going to help us. Okay, now there is going to be a place where, for example, this the same thing. Okay, we were in a weird position somehow. Okay, we were running with bad luck. Okay, and we tried this. This part gave us error. Okay, why? Because both the types were different. Right, so now to solve this, we will identify, okay, this is a string type, we need to convert it into an integer, and then we will be able to perform the operation here. Okay, so both the data types should be same to perform the operation. That's why we use typecasting to convert it into, or cast it into, a different data type where it's useful for us and we can perform the operation that we want. Understood?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Sure, sir.
Yes. All right.
Sir, here
Yes.
why didn't we use the type function?
Type is to check it, what type it is. Okay. So the type function actually helps us check it, what is the type of it. For example, this is a number. This we have written 6. So type is going to show us, okay, what type that is. Okay, it's an integer. And if I do a parentheses around it, sorry, the string quotes around it, it's going to convert it to a string. It's just to check. It's not going to help us convert the data type, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it just shows what kind of data type that is. All right. So next, move to the Boolean outputs. Okay. So comparisons. So Boolean operation or comparisons. We have two integers. Okay. And we want to check if they are equal. Okay. If they are the same things. So we are going to use equal equals. Okay. So n1 is equal to 5, n2 is equal to 2. If we use double equals, it's going to show us if they are same things or not. So it's going to return us false because they are not. 5 is not equal to true, right? 5 and 2 are two different things. So equals equals is going to compare both of these things, and it's going to tell us, okay, are they same things or not? Okay. Then we have not equals. So n1, 5 is not equal to 2. Is that correct or not? That's true, right? So we are going to get true out here. Next thing is n1 is larger than n2. Is it true?
Yes.
So we are going to get the answer as true. Then n1 is lesser than n2. Okay. So n1 is lesser than n2? No. So it's going to return us false. Okay. So n1 is more than or equal to n2. Is it true? Yes, it is true. So it's going to return us true. All right. So these are the basic comparative operations that we can perform. So equal equals, not equals, more than, less than, more than equal to, and less than equal to. And it's going to return us something called Booleans, true and false. Okay. And true and false are going to be helpful for us when we are checking the conditions, like if, that we will see later. This part clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so far we took three data types. First one was string. We saw all the possible operations that we can perform using the default function on those. First one was integer. First one was strings. Second one was numbers, where we saw strings and floats. And third one we saw was Booleans. So these are the Boolean outputs. Boolean outputs are actually the comparison operations, the output of the operations, comparison operations. All right. So this is going to give us false, true, true, or false. So true and false are two Booleans that we are going to utilize in our if statement. Okay. So these were pretty much simple data types. Okay. So everything was a singular thing there. Now there are something called container data types. Okay. Container data types are like list, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. We will see what each of those, container data types are. So basically the container data types are where they hold one or more different variables or number or text in one bunch or one arrangement. All right. So these are the container type of data types, container data types. First one is the list. Most of the time we are going to just utilize the list, and we see, so list is a sequential container of elements. Okay. It's resizable. It means that we can change the size of it. We can extend it. We can, reduce it. All right. We can add something to it. We can replace it. And it's array type. It's not exactly an array, but it's array type. It means that there is a sequence, and we can, put in singular type of data types in it. All right. So to define a list, what we do is an empty list, and we can define it like this: 2 square brackets. All right. Other way to define an empty list is going to be just using the list function and 2 parentheses. Right. And we can just print an empty list like this, and it's going to just show us like this. Okay. Empty list is important. Many places we are going to use it, and we will see why just creating an empty list also helps at some places. Okay. In list, we can pass in integers, we can pass in strings, we can pass in whatever value we want actually. So here I have just created a list, which is names of 4 people: Stan, Kyle, Ken, and Cartman. And I'm going to print this new list, which is list of 4 people. Perfect. Now let's see the indexing part. What was the indexing actually? We saw it in the strings. What is indexing?
The place calculation.
Yes, so indexing means that the location of elements. Okay, we want to access an element from an element with its location. So location is, for example, if I want to find the value at location number 1. So location number 1 is like this. So in Python we start from 0, right? So this is tan it as 0, the cal it as position number 1. So names inside the square brackets, if I pass 1, I'm going to be returned Kyle because it's at the position number 1. There's one more indexing part which is called negative. Okay, what this -1 does is it changes the counting from the end. So reverse the position of the counting. So Cartman is at -1 position. It's not at -0 because there is nothing like -0. Okay, so Cartman is at -1. What is at -2?
Kenny.
Yes.
Kenny.
And
All right. So if we execute it like this, we can see the Cartman here, and at the position number -3, we will see Kyle again. Okay.
Right.
Perfect. So this is how we access the element using the indexing. Okay, what if we want to find the indexing place for any element? In a list we use something called dot index. Okay, dot index, and we are going to pass in whatever we want to find there, and we execute it, and we will find that the position for Kenny is actually the position number 2, the index number 2. What if the index that we are trying to see, element we are trying to find does not exist in any index? It's going to throw us an error. Okay, because butters we are trying to find, there is no index for the butters available for us. All right, that's why we couldn't see the output here and threw us an error. Let's see how do we modify the list. So we have again the same list. We are going to try and modify it. Okay, so first way is we can actually use the indexing to modify it. For example, name, the first position, whatever it is as the first position, which is Kyle, I want to convert it as butters. All right, so first position equal to butters, and I can execute it and I will see that, okay, the first print the names which were original one, and then I have edited it with the first position being butters, which has changed to butters. Okay, next we will see extending the list using dot append. So if I want to add a new element at the end, so this is my list, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman. At the end, I'm going to use append a new element, which is butters. Okay, I can append it like this. All right. Now, if I want to change it, if I want to insert one, okay, so I want to second position, I want to add butters. So this is 0th position, this is first position, and this is the second position. Where is Kenny? If I execute it, what is going to happen here? I'm inserting it, I'm not replacing it. So what's going to happen?
So
The
before
butters
Kenny,
will come
butters will
on
come.
the second page.
Before Kenny, butters will come.
Yes, exactly. So we are inserting it, we are not replacing the second position. So butters is going to be at the second position here. All right. Next is extend. What extend does is, if we have two lists and we want to extend this new list to the older one, that's how we use extend. Here you can see especially that I have passed a new list here. Okay, so Button and Clyde, two other people, they are in a list. I'm going to pass that as a list in it. Okay, so that's how extend is going to work for us. It's going to extend a new list to the existing list. Okay, then let's move to the removing part. If you want to remove some element from the list, for example, I want to remove Kenny from the list, okay, because Kenny dies all the time, and I'm going to use the function remove, and I'm going to remove the Kenny, so it's out of the list now. Another way to remove is pop. Okay, so pop is a bit different from remove. So what remove does is it totally removes that element from the list. Pop doesn't just remove that element, it gives us what that element was. So we can assign it to a new variable here. So for example, I'm writing a name 2. Okay, the second position name was Kenny. So names dot pop, if I do that and if I execute this part, it's going to give us that, okay, pop means that the last element has been removed from it. Okay, but it has been saved into name2 variable also. Understood? Anybody has any question here? For the pop
Sir.
actually removes the last one.
Sir,
Yes.
yeah, sir, what is the difference between append and extend? Like ultimately they are performing in the same way.
Yes, append is going to append single element, and extend is going to help you extend a new list there.
Okay, multiple elements. Right?
Yes, multiple elements. So append is for one element, and for extend, you are going to extend multiple elements, but you have to use those inside a list, because you see these square brackets here, right? This and
Okay,
this.
okay.
Yeah, these are going to work like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir,
Next is, yeah, next we have, yes.
Okay, when you use extend, you should keep it in a list. Okay.
Yes, so let me do this correctly again. Okay, so I'm going to call it like this. Okay, so what's going to be output here in this case?
After that, when butter some.
It's going to be exactly as the extends output what we saw here. Okay, because this is actually a list that we passed here. All right, the output is going to be same here. Understood?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other question?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, dot pop is for only last element or
Yes.
any other?
Yeah, you are correct. Let's see. Okay, so the pop inside it, you can pass the index value here also. Okay, and this is going to actually take that index value and it's going to remove it. If you just don't pass anything, it's going to remove the last value from the list. Okay, if you pass the index value for it, it's going to remove that index value there. For example, I want to remove Kyle from it. Okay, so Kyle it at what position? First.
One.
0 and 1 position. So it's going to be Kyle. So Kyle, which has stored in name2, I printed name2 here. This is Kyle, and it has been removed from the main list here. Perfect. So if you don't have anything here, it means that it's going to remove the last element. But if you have passed anything here, like 2, then the second element, which is Kenny, is going to be removed from it. Okay, so Kenny has been removed, and it has been stored into a new variable, which is name2 also. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, then we have dot reverse. It's going to reverse the list for us. Okay, reverse in alphabetical order, or the, yeah, it's going to just reverse for us. There's no order in the reverse, right?
Sir,
Yes.
so whenever I will go for the remove the multiple things like coil and thing, and what to do?
So inside the pop, you can remove these elements from here. So remove Kenny, and you want to remove the Cartman also, right?
Okay.
Sorry.
Lost.
I'm not able to remember that.
Right.
Okay, I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. I'll send in a WhatsApp. Okay.
Can we use indexing while using remove function?
Remove, I don't think we can. We can try this at the position, but I think index remove is just for the element directly. If you want to remove from, using the index, we use pop there. Okay, if you just use this like this, okay, just name pop, it's going to remove it. It's going to give us the new one automatically. Okay, the pop, exactly, if you don't assign this pop to anything, it's going to give us the
Keep it
removed
in a
position.
list.
Sorry?
Keep it in a list, Kenny, and anything else. The multiple values you want. After Kenny. Yeah.
Here in a list, we can remove it, right?
Let's see. I know.
Yeah, it doesn't work. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, how to remove it. But mostly I don't think that it was possible easily. That's why I didn't put it here. So we have to like write a loop for those things. That's why I didn't add it mostly. Okay, and this is, we have reverse for it. So far, any confusion in these points?
No, sir.
All right. Let's move ahead. And there is one more function that we have sort. Okay, inside sort, we don't have to use reverse is equal to true all the time. But here's the thing: if we have a list which is numerical, which has numerical elements, and we want to sort it, we can just use the function dot sort. When you use dot sort, it's going to give us in extending order. Okay, and if we want to have it in a decreasing order, we can use reverse equal to true. Okay, it's going to give us in the decreasing order. The highest value is going to be at the 0th position, and the lowest value is going to be at the last position. We have to pass in reverse equal to true.
Instead of reverse, can we use ascending ascending
No,
equal?
not here. This is not pandas. Okay, so this is not pandas. So sort is for to see that we can do this. I think sort is the, so sort is actually, this thing is not pandas. So here we have to pass in as reverse equal to true. There's no ascending and descending order here. All right. So that is only for pandas, not for normal list. Correct? Yes. Let's move to the slicing in a index. So far we did the indexing also while we were accessing it here, right? So first element we wanted to access, we used the first, and then if we wanted to access from the back, we just started with negatives. Okay. So next part is slicing here also. So when we want to slice a list, we can do follow the exact same pattern that we used in the strings. Okay. So this is the 0th position. Okay. And this is the last position, which is -1. I want to select from this position 0th. I want to stop here. What's going to be the answer here? There is the answer already visible. If I execute it, what's going to be the answer here? If somebody has not already seen it.
So what is the question? Can you please?
The question is, we already did the slicing. Everybody remember that in the string also, right? So this is the code I'm trying to run. I'm trying to slice this whole list. Okay, I want to select a few elements from it. If I execute this code,
Last index.
-1
Batman.
yeah,
All the.
Yeah.
Sir, it will print all the four characters.
all 4,
Reverse
right?
in reverse manner.
Because the first value is not given, it's blank, so it will take as 0, I guess. And
Yeah.
this -1 is for the last one.
All right. Okay. So let's think of it slicing again. Everybody can mute themselves. Okay, we got the idea. Okay, so what's going to happen is, let's again see the slicing. What happens with this one is, if we pass 0, it's okay. But if you don't want to write 0 because it's starting from the 0th position, okay, we can always remove it. We don't have to use this. All right. And again, now remember, we have n-1, we are stopping. So there is nothing, it means that there is 0 here. All right. So Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman. We remember that n-1 we stop at. What is this position? At this position, what is there? Cartman, right? We are going to stop 1 before it. Okay. So if we execute it, we are going to see Stan, Kyle, and Kenny, because we have stopped 1 before n-1 position. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Exactly. So this is how slicing and indexing work. Everybody, I think we should practice more on it and understand how the slicing works. I'm going to write it in simpler manner, that it starts from the position which is given. So initialize in it, starting position, or let's say start. Okay. The ending is going to be end position -1. All right. So always remember that whatever you write at this end position, it's going to stop at -1, like one before it. Okay, so -1 is actually Cartman, so it's going to stop one before it, which is going to be Kenny. Okay, let's move to the next function for the string. There's something in the string, there is a function called join, okay, which we did not add. So what join does in a string is, you have one empty string here, okay. When you use join, what it does, it iterates over all the elements in a list, okay. So if I execute this, I'm using a comma and then a space and then join. Inside it, it's going to iterate over all the names, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman. It's going to return me this kind of sentence here. Okay, this is the name string which is I'm going to get. Now I have created the name string and I want to break it. Okay, I want to split it. At every comma and space, I want to remove it, and I want to have each and every single element stored in the new list. Okay, so for that we have the string name dot split and the position where we want to break each element at. Okay, so if we execute it, we get something like this. Okay, so Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman, which were broken, which were concatenated into a single sentence using the join, and then we use the same name string and we use the split function to split it at comma and space, and it gave us a string here. It gave us a list again. Is it clear for everyone? If there is any confusion,
1 second.
yes, you can execute it on your screen and you can ask me a question about it. Somebody was asking a question, right? He said 1 second.
So he said 1 second.
Okay, do you have any question?
I think he told
Sir.
once again.
So 1 second, can you
Please repeat, sir.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. Okay. So let's break it down. Okay. This is a single part. That's why it might be confusing. Let's break it down into two pieces. Okay. So let's focus on this part only. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm assigning it to a variable named string. So I want to create a string using all these elements. I want to join these elements in together. Okay. And for example, I don't have anything here. I have just empty string here. I can use dot join here and then names, which is into a list. What this function is going to do is it's going to take first element Stan. Okay, let me execute it. What it's going to do is it's going to take the element Stan. Okay, it's going to put at first this position where the first place, and then it's going to join the next element, which is Kyle, directly after the Stan. It's going to put there, and then it's going to go to Kenny and it's going to put after Kyle, and then the Cartman is going to be put after Kenny. Okay, but here what I did was using any empty string or nothing null string, I put a comma there, and if I execute it now, there's going to be a comma after each and every element that is being joined. Okay, now I can put a space here also, and I will see that comma and space after it. Okay, so name string that you see here is actually a single string conversion from elements of a list. This part clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this part clear, right? Okay, so now I have created something called name string, which is a single string. Okay, I want to split this string. Okay, this is a string method. I want to split this string at every comma. So what I want is, I want, for example, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman, I want to differentiate those. So I'm going to use the name string, whichever this whole string that it was. After this, I'm going to type in split, and I want going to pass the argument, okay, at what spatial character I want to create the split, which is at comma and space. So if I execute this, every comma and space is going to differentiate the elements into a new value. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for example, when we are buying our, when we get our flight, okay, our flight, and our boarding pass is going to have name like this. For example, this is my name. So this is how we see our name on the boarding pass, correct? Our first name and our last name and then first name. So I'm going to do is name dot, if I do split, okay, I want to split it at comma, okay. So what is it going to return us? Anybody can explain this?
Khetri, Bhuvanesh.
Yes, it's going to be a list. Okay, it's going to give me a list which is going to be which is going to have a sorry,
The comma space.
this is going to return us Khatri and Bhuvanesh, these two elements of a list. Now is this part clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So far whatever we have done, you already have a file. I hope that you have executed it. If you have any problem, you can just ask me right away. All right, we'll move to the next part, which is loops. Okay, so loops actually work on iterable objects. So list is an iterable object because each item can be accessed using a index. In Python, how for loop works is with this format. Okay, we have for, okay, then we are going to have any arbitrary, you know, a name here, or any variable name or arbitrary character here, which is n. Okay, after this we have special character in, and then inside the iterable object, which here we are using as a list, okay, the name list, and then we have a colon, and then in the next line we perform whatever we want to perform. For example, right now what I want to perform is print n into 2. I want to multiply n by 2 and I want to print each and every element. So if I execute it, this is the answer that I get. Now what's happening here is, so when the loop starts, okay, so n is going to be assigned the 0th element of the names. Okay, in the names the 0th element is what? Stan. Perfect. So the counter is going to be inside it, in the secret part of the Python, the counter is going to be at 0. Okay, so 0th counter, and we are going to multiply the n, which is Stan, now into 2, and it's going to print us Stan for us. Okay, after this there is no code here, right? So it's going to stop, and what is the counter is going to turn into what? From 0 to 1. Okay, now at the first position what it is? Kyle. Now it's Kyle's number to get multiplied by 2, and then we will get Kyle, and similarly we will get to the second element, and then we will go to the third element. So this is how our loop works in Python. For loop works in Python. Anybody has any question at this part? All right, looks no. Let's move next to it. Okay, so we can run the loop in a similar to a, you know, length list also, so iterable item. So here I was explaining that, okay, there is a counter which is running at 0th position, and then the position is 2 now, and the position is 3 now. That can be used using enumerate here, this one. Okay, but what if I have two different lists? I want to change the counter. Okay, I have two different lists I want to work with. I have the first list of name, okay, another list of number. Now names and list, if they are equal, we can put that in zip using the list one and then names, and we can place that, okay, now there are two elements that we are trying to work with. we can call the list 1. It's going to be this counter is going to be I, and n is going to be counting the names. Now if we execute it, it's going to return us something like this. So I, which is right now at 0, so this is going to work like this. So I's position is going to be 0. Okay, and J's position is also at 0. N's position is also at 0 right now. Okay, both the position are 0. So it's going to start at I, which is list. 0th position is 1. So 1 we are going to print here. Okay, and then from the name also the 0th position we are going to take, which is Stan, we are going to print here. The counter is going to go to the next one, which is going to be 1. Okay, so the first position of the list is 2, and the first position of name is Kyle. So 2 we are going to get here, and the Kyle we are going to get here. Similarly, we can move on. Okay, now this is done using zip. Remember that both the lists that we are passing in the zip has to be of same length. Anybody has any question here?
No, sir.
If it's confusing, I can explain it again. Just, write in private chat also, it's fine.
So can you explain once more?
Yeah, sure. So here what we had was a single list we wanted to iterate through. Okay, we wanted to run the for loop for a single list. What if we want to run the same for loop for 2 different lists with the similar indexing or similar counting? Okay, so we were counting at 0, then we were counting at like first 0, then we change it to 1, then we change it to 2. What if we have 2 different lists and we want to count those things together? For example, these are the 2 lists that we have. Okay, so this is names, and then this is the other list that we have. Okay, now I want to count in such way that the 0th position where I'm counting, from the name I want to take Stan, and from the list I want to take the position 0, which is 1. Okay, from name I want to, at first position I want to take Kyle, and the first position of the list also I want to take in the same manner. So the counter I want to keep same for both. So what I can do is I can combine those using something called a function called zip. Inside it I can pass that, okay, the list or the first list that I want to put here and the second list, which is name here. Okay, now zip is going to create the counter for us, but the counter variables are going to be I and n, because there are 2 lists now, we need 2 variables here. Okay, so exactly the counting is going to work exactly the same it was before. Okay, for the 0th position of I and 0th position of n. So 0th position of Stan and the 0th position of list is 1. We are going to get 1 and Stan. Then we are going to get 2 and Kyle, and 3 and Kenny, and 4 and Cartman. Is this clear now?
Sir, is it mandatory to have the same number of elements?
Yes, this is mandatory. Both has to have the similar length. Okay. If it doesn't, then you will see that whichever is shorter, it's going to stop there.
Okay.
Okay.
So can we do it without zip function?
We cannot. For 2 elements, we cannot. We need to use something called zip.
So how many arguments does the zip take?
Number of lists that you want to pass in. So if you have 3 lists, mostly I have only tried with 2. If you have 3, you can put 3, and then you have I, N, and then you can put J here and another list, whatever you want to put there. So the counters are going to be the corresponding counter for the list that you have put in zip.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So similar to that, there is one more function similar to zip, which is called enumerate. What enumerate does is, for example, here I have given a new list which had 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So enumerate, what it's going to do is enumerate gives us the first position. It gives us the actually counter value. Okay. And the second one, it's going to return as the actual element of the list. Okay. If I execute it, what I'm going to get is I is the counter, actual counter with 0, 1, 2, and 3, the index locations. And then it's going to give us the element after using the n. Is this part clear? Enumerate is going to give us two things, I comma n, or whatever you want to assign it here. Okay, and then enumerate is going to give us the counter plus the element also. Is that part clear? Okay, I'll explain this one again. So zip was to combine two lists, okay, and then we get two counters here, I and n, and we can just run it to access the element simultaneously from two different lists. All right, what if I have only single list and there is some reason I want to find what index value of that element I am at right now, that also I want to get. So I will need to have two counters. First counter I'm going to assign as I, and the second counter I have assigned as n. But to facilitate me this functionality, I'm going to use something called enumerate. Inside the enumerate, I'm going to pass my list. So now what enumerate is going to do is it's going to return two counters. First counter is going to be the index counter. So 0th position, first position, second position, and third position. The I is going to be the counter of those. N is going to be the counter of the exact element. So 0th position is going to be Stan, then first is Kyle, and then Kenny, and then Cartman. So if I run those things together, for example, let's change this print function. It's going to execute and it's going to return us something like this. So I now is going to give us the index value of these elements. Is that clear for everyone now? Or should I
Yes,
explain
sir.
it again?
Clear, sir.
Yeah, hopefully it's clear now.
Okay, for enumerate function, I is always be the index number and n is the value.
Yes, exactly. So it's going to be just a counter starting from 0. That is for true for a list, right? So that's enumerate. That's how enumerate is going to work. Perfect. Shall we move?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's see something called performing operation on a list. Okay. So for example, we want to perform an operation on each and every element of the list. Okay. So first element is 0. First is then 0th element is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want to do a square of each element. Okay. If I execute it, I'm going to get an error. Okay. Because the operation that I'm performing is on the whole list, not on each and every element. To do that, I will have to take the each and every single element out, and I have to perform the operation on this, and then I will be able to see the answer. So what I'm trying to do here is something like this. I'm going to create an empty list, new, or I'm calling it squares. I'm going to keep it as empty list. Okay. Now I'm going to write as a for loop. For I in my number list, num, okay, and then colon, and then next line, and I'm going to do is square. So this is going to be my new way to change the value of each and every element. Okay, so if I execute this, this is going to return me the not names, numbers. we'll leave this part. Let's look into this. So directly performing the num square is not going to be possible for us. Okay, what we will have to do is we will have to do something called single line performance. Okay, so what we are going to do here is we are going to change it into a single line work of a for loop. Okay, let's see how the single line for loop works. So this works like this. The format is going to be I. Okay, the whatever we want to perform on it. Okay, so this part is going to be whatever the element we want to perform on it, and then 4, and this is the arbitrary number for the counter, and then in and inside the number, and we are going to wrap it around a list again. Okay, and so this is going to return us the squares of each and every element. So first one was like this, and then we are going to use a singleton line like this, and which is going to return us the squares for each and every element. Is this part clear for everyone, or I should explain it again?
Again.
Okay. All right, so let's see this here. So if I have a list and I want to perform an operation, the numerical operation on a list or each element of the list, I cannot directly perform it on the list name. Okay, I need to perform it on each and every single element here. If I execute it like this, it's not going to work for us. It's going to give us an error. All right, what we need to do is we need to separate each and every single element once, and then we need to perform the square on that element, and we need to join the whole list back. Okay, so to do this, we follow something like this convention. Okay, so what we do here is we take this for loop like this. Okay, we start from here. Don't see this part for now. What we do here is we start the for loop. We have the x. X is actually, we can replace it with the I also. Okay, right now I have given it as name as x. Okay, inside the number, just outside of it we can type, okay, this is the element what we want to perform on it. I want to perform a square on it. Okay, now everything I'm going to wrap it in a list again. Okay, so this is going to return me a square, which is a new list of square of each and every element. Hopefully this was clear again. Okay, this is called one liner in Python, one liner for loop. Okay, again, I think there is more confusion for people. Let me try it again. So there's something called one liner. What we are trying to do is, let's see. What we are trying to do here is we are trying to take each and every single element out of the list. We are going to perform a square on it, and we are going to reassemble the whole list again. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do. So to do that, there is something in Python for the for loop, which is a single liner. So single liner, how it works is, so for example, we have x. This part is the same as most of the time that we use for x in the list. That part is clear? Please say yes if it's clear. We'll expand on it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So for x in numbers, this part is clear, right? After that, what we do is we move a colon, and then inside we go. And if you want to perform any square on this x, we can perform it. That is clear, correct?
Yes.
If I execute it, what I'm going to get? If I print it. Okay, so I'm going to get the square of each and every individual element. Okay, now there is something called one liner in Python. What it does is, you can, after this colon, what we can do is whatever we had here after the colon, we can take it, we can remove it from here, and we can put it just in front of the 4. Okay, this can be done, and we have to remove this colon from here. This can be done. So this is a single line now. It's going to work as single line. Now we want to return everything as a list now. So what we are going to do is we are going to put it in the square brackets. Okay, now whatever this is, it's a new list which we are going to return. I'm going to assign it as a new name, which is squares. Okay, equal to, perfect. And then I can see what the squares has become now. Hopefully this was clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now it was clear, right? Okay. if anybody has any confusion, still can ask me. So these are called Python one-liners. Okay, so Python one-liners can actually iterate through each and every element, and we can box it into a new list. All right, should we move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next we will move to tuples. So tuples are exactly like lists, but they're immutable. So basically you cannot perform anything on it. Okay, to create an empty tuple, you use this parentheses. Okay, and then on the function tuple also, it's going to give us a empty tuple. Okay, the tuple is going to be used. We had for list we had square brackets. Okay, for tuple we are going to have parentheses. Inside it we are passing the names again. But if we are trying to change the first position, which is Kyle, to Butters, it will throw us an error. We won't be able to access it. Okay, so once we have created the tuple, it's going to stay like this. There's nothing that we can change there. It's going to be yes, it's unchangeable.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so that's all about the tuples. Let's move to the sets. Okay, so sets are like dictionaries if you have already worked on dictionaries, but let's see what sets are. So sets are going to be in curly brackets. Okay, these are single elements. All right, there's going to be just single element. Okay, and we can pass all the elements in here and we can just run it. So everybody remember the sets from the mathematics of 11th and 10th grade, right?
Yes.
Yes, these are exactly those
Yes,
sets.
sir.
Yes. So sets are what sets are? It's a collection of unordered unique elements. Okay, ordered unique elements. So these elements are going to be unique now. So once we have created a set which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again I have added 2 and 3 there. Okay, if I execute it, I'm going to get a set with the values 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. The 2 and 3 which were at the end, which were repeated. Okay, so they were removed from the sets definition. All right.
The duplicate.
Yeah, it won't duplicate. Okay, if we want to add something to a set, we can use add, and inside it we can pass a single value. It's going to add 4. So because 4 already exists here, it's not going to extend it to anything. Okay, and we can add 7, and it's going to be part of the new set again. Okay, using the add, we are going to be performing add operation here. Now sets are on itself are not that usable. They are usable when we have two different sets and we want to have some comparison. So from the 11th and 10th grade mathematics, anybody remember what were the 3 operations on sets if we had 2 sets?
Union, intersection,
and difference. Okay, so that's exactly what we are going to perform here. I have defined another set which has 6, 5, 2, and 7. Okay, and I'm going to perform a union of it. So if I perform a union, what's going to happen is all the unique values are going to be the part of the new set that we have created, set 1. Okay, another one we have is intersection. What intersection is going to return is all the common values between those two sets. Okay, and then difference is going to be whatever the values were except for the intersection. Okay, all the common values are going to be removed and the rest of the values are going to be returned to us. These are how the sets and their 3 main functions work. Clear so far?
yes,
All right. Okay, let's move to one more good part of the sets, which is using the lists and converting into sets. Okay, so for example, this is a problem I faced a couple of months ago where I had 2 lists. I wanted to get the unique values of the 2 lists. Now to perform this operation, what we have to do is something called nested for loop. Okay, if we want to find all the unique values there, and then we have to put in a lot of conditions. What I did there was simply joined 2 lists. Okay, converted that into a set and then converted it back to a list. Okay, for example, let's see what I did there. Okay, so I have 2 lists, I have joined them. Okay, once I joined them, they became like 1. After 5, I got 6, 5, 2, and 7. Okay, so now what I did was converted into a set of 3. List 3 I converted into a set. Okay, and this set is not going to convert it into a set, and set returned me a new set here. Okay, now again I converted into a list back, and this gave me all the unique values. So if I have two lists, I want to find a combined list of only unique values. I can just join those, convert it into a set, and reconvert that into a list. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So empty list, when we are using, we are not going to use empty parentheses, empty curly brackets. We are not going to use that. Okay. We will have to use something, the function called set here. Okay. So this is not going to work as, this is not going to return as a set. Okay. If we execute it, the type, if we see the empty set, it's going to be dictionary. It's not going to be a set. Set is only possible when we are using the function set. Okay. Or we are directly defining it with values inserted in. Okay. All right. Anybody has any questions so far with sets? If there is any confusion, please ask me. I can explain it again from the scratch. It's fine.
Only the intersection part.
Okay. So intersection, right? So what happening with the intersection is, so the first set is of this. Okay. All the unique values of this. Sorry, all the unique values of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the second set has values of 2, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Now out of those, let's try to compare which values are actually common in those two. 0 is not common. 1 is not common. 2 is common, right? So 2 I have taken here. So this is the intersection. The first intersected element is 2. Next move to 3. There's no 3 here. 4, there's no 4 here. 5, is it in the second list? Yes, there is 5 in the second list. So 2 unique values which are common in those two sets are going to be returned as intersection. Clear? Perfect. Anybody has any question with till set from the beginning again, they can ask me. It's fine. I can explain it again. No? You can write a private message also. It's fine. Okay. Okay, shall we move then?
Intersection is similar
Yes.
like inner join.
Yes, yes, you can call that. Exactly. So those are actually arrived from the inner joins are arrived from the sets actually mathematically, if you see. Okay. Next, let's move to the dictionaries. So dictionaries are a collection of key and value pairs. Okay. So dictionary is going to define like this. So we have a curly bracket, and then we are going to write a key one, and then colon, and then the value of it. And then we are going to put a comma after that key 2 and its value. Okay. So for example, here I have defined a dictionary D equal to, okay, the first element, its key is name and value is Stan. Okay. The second key is age of Stan I want to define. So which is 8. Okay. Then the town where the Stan is living in, I'm saying, okay, he lives in South Park. So this is a key and value pair. So first key and value pair is name and the name value. Second is age and age value. And then third is town and town value. Okay. Now if I print this, I'm going to get my dictionary, which is D. Now accessing the dictionary. So in list, how were we accessing the list, which was called indexing, right? Here we cannot utilize indexing, can we?
No, can we use the key here?
So
use the key.
Yes, exactly. So here we don't have index values here. There's no indexing there. So we have to access it using the keys that are given to us. So if we have to access any element, for example, name we have to access, which is 10, then I will do is D, and then I'm going to pass name, and it's going to return me the value here. Okay. What if I access a value which is not available? I pass a key which is not available there.
It will throw an error.
Yes, exactly. So we get an error here, which is not defined here. But if you have written a long loop, okay, and you are trying to access those things, and if you get an error, your loop is going to break. Or if you are running a 1-hour program and somewhere you did not take care of it. So what we can do there is we can utilize the function called .get. Okay. So .get, what it does is you find this thing for me at this index value. You find if it exists or not. Okay. If it doesn't exist, return me NA, but don't break the program for me. Don't throw any error. Okay, so I'm going to get NA. If the element if that key doesn't exist, it's going to give us NA. All right, this is the second argument I have passed NA. You can pass anything here. All right, now let's move to the updating the list, updating the dictionary. It's exactly done in the same way as list. Only difference is we have to pass in the key here, and for the key I want to change the value of name. Okay, so I'm going to pass in the value here. All right, so if I run this thing and if I see the list change, dictionary changed, now I can see that okay, for the name I have changed it to Kyle, so the dictionary also the name has changed to Kyle. Now if I want to update multiple values, what I can do is use the update function, and inside it I have to pass a dictionary like structure again. So this is going to be a new dictionary which I have to pass, which is going to have the combination of name I want to change it to Kyle, and grade I want to change it to 6. Okay, I want to change the grade to 6. Now the thing is there is no grade here, but if I execute it, what's going to happen is it's going to add a new key and value pair here. Okay, so this is how update is going to work. If the key value pair exists, it's going to replace it. If the key doesn't exist, it's going to add that key value pair. Perfect. Let's move to deleting any element. So we can delete it using the key, passing in the key, and we can see, okay, if I pass in D and this grade, I will be deleting the grade from it like this. So I added the name Kyle and the grade 6, and if I use the DL and the D, and then inside I have to pass the key value, it's going to delete that key for us. A key and value both pair for us. So grade has been deleted from it using the del statement. Okay, there's one more, the pop we can also use here, exactly like what we used in list, exactly how it's going to work for us. And then when we are popping it, this also get stored in a variable called grade. All right, now any question about these function of or accessing the dictionary here? All right, no questions?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move then. Okay, so accessing the dictionary with predefined more functions. If you want to access all the keys, what we do is we use the dictionary and then we use the keys. So it's going to return us all the keys. Okay, if we have the values, if you want to access the values, d dot values, it's going to give us all the values in the dictionary. Okay, and there is one more thing called item. What it does, it gives us the key and value pairs like this. So name and Kyle, it's going to give us the tuple of the key value pair here. Okay, so key, values, and items, we have 3 ways to access the elements of the dictionary again. Now these things are actually helpful for us when we are using the for loop on dictionaries. Okay, we are going to use the for loop on dictionary. We have the dictionary of D, Stan age is 8, Butters 9, and Cartman has 10 age, and we want to move from we want to access each and a single element from here. Okay, so this is the for loop that I have written. I want to have the age, I want to find the age of it. So what we do is we have the D, inside it we pass the key here, which is the Stan, which is going to be the key here, and it's going to return us the age here, correct? And then I'm going to print the statement as name and then age. So name is going to place here and age is going to be placed here. If I execute it, I get the sentence like this. Now, because there are 2 elements altogether, this is how we have to access it. This is going to, the counter is going to be for the keys. Okay, and to access the values, we have to pass the keys inside as a single element into the dictionary, which is going to return us the age again. And this returns us the key and value pair in a for loop. So there is a better way to do that, and which it is done by the d dot items. So dictionary dot items, it's going to give us the return us 2 counters, which is name and age in our case of the dictionary here. Okay, so this is exactly like how we use the enumerate and the zip. Okay, but this is going to give us with item, we are going to get us this kind of pair here. Okay, so this pair we are going to loop through, and this is going to be better version of what we did in the above for loop. Anybody has any question so far with the dictionaries? I think it was confusing for most of the people. I'll try to explain it again. Okay, so we will just remove this part. Okay, so let's not get confused with this. So this is the way how we access the dictionaries in for loop. We have two elements going together, right? One element is called key, the other thing is called value. Correct? Just keep responding to me. So in dictionary we have one thing called key, another called value. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, so we are going to call it key and value. Okay, so which spatial function of dictionary return us key and value pair?
Dot items.
Yes, dot items. Okay, so we are going to take the dictionary, okay, and we are going to put dot items here. So it's going to return us the key and value pair. So I have written a key and then value. So these two things, when I'm running the counter here, okay, when my counter it as 0, what I'm going to get as key and value?
Name and Kyle.
Yes. Correct. We are going to get the name, the key, which is 10. At 0th counter, this is 10. And the value is what? 8. Correct. So I'm going to get key here, field here, and value here. And if I run it, I'm going to get 10 as key, 8 as value. Now, if my counter is at 1, what I'm going to get? What is going to be my key?
Butter and
Butter.
And the value is going to be 9.
9.
Yes. And at the counter number 2, what's going to happen? The key is going to be what? Yes. And value is what? The number is 10. Perfect. Is it clear now how we iterate through in the using for loop in a dictionary?
Yes.
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 Okay. So there's one more thing we should know. How to use the single liner to create a dictionary. So you remember there was a confusing thing that we did here with the list around here. Okay, it took me like one more iteration to explain it. Okay, so here we put 2 square brackets here. Correct. So if we replace that with curly brackets, we can change it to a dictionary also, right? So if I have a list here, okay, now in this position, what I will have to do is I will have to pass a key and value pair here. Correct. So let's break it down one at a time. So this is my list here. Okay. Now, if I have to write a for loop here, I have x for x in a underscore list. Correct. This is how my single liner for loop is going to be, right? Everybody understood this? Because I have already explained it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is going to be my single line for loop. So I will explain it again. So for example, the normal for loop is going to be like this, and then my x is going to be here. Okay. So to convert it into a single line, we can remove it from the next line and we can put it in front of the for loop and we can remove the colon. This part is clear, right? Now I want to get a dictionary out of it. So what I have to do is put curly brackets around it. But dictionaries have 2 things, right? Key and value pair. Right now, what is there? It's a single thing. There are not 2 things. Correct? Now I want to convert it into a dictionary. So I need a key and value pair. So for example, I had a list. I want to get the square of each and every element. Okay. So I want the key as the original value of the list as key, and the value is going to be my square that I want to perform here. So I'm going to do square of x, and if I run this, it's going to convert into a a dictionary which is going to return us the value with key which is 0 and the value which has been converted into the x square. Okay, and then 1 and its square is 1, then 2 and its square is 2. So this is the tricky part here. We write first element whatever we want and the operation that we wanted to perform on it. Is that part clear? So how we use the single liner on a when we are creating a dictionary, we have to have two parts out here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so when we are converting into a dictionary, we need two parts here. Any question on dictionary so far? I'm going to delete this one because it was not, it was quite confusing for most of the students here. Okay, let's move to the conditional flow and booleans. So we have true and false. Okay, so we saw that when we are doing the equal equals, not equals, and we are comparing less than equal, the return that we get are true and false. Okay, what if we have two true and false, two booleans, and we want to compare those? Okay, we want to perform operation on those. So there are three most important boolean conditional flows, which is and, or, and not. Okay, if we have true, if we are using and, okay, so what should be the answer for and? If I have true and if I do true,
It's true. Answer will be true.
so what's going to be here the answer?
It's true.
Yes, so true and true are is going to be true, because when the both are same we get true in and situation. Okay, if it's false we're going to get
False.
false. For the and, both has to be the same. Okay, if both are same we are going to get as same answer. Okay, whatever it is. So and whatever both are, it's going to return us the same thing. All right, and for or, it's going to, any one of them has to be true to be returned as true. Okay, so let's look at it again. So when we are using and, both has to be true to get true. Okay, got it? So both has to be true to get a true. If both are false, we are going to get what? False. If both are true, we are going to get true. Otherwise, every other situation, we are going to get false. And in the or statement, any one has to be true, then we are going to get true as output. And not, what it does, it inverses it. Okay, so this is how and or works. I'll explain it again because it was a bit confusing. For and statement, if both are true, only then we are going to get true as a result. Otherwise, we are going to get false as a result. Let's try it in all the possibilities. So true and false, what's going to return?
False.
Yes, it's going to return as false. What is going to return with true and true?
True.
True. Okay, what's going to be at false and false? False, exactly. So this is how and is going to work. Okay, and for the or, any one has to be true to get us a true out of it. Okay, so if both are true, what's going to happen with or?
True.
If both are true, what's going to happen?
True.
Why? Because any one has to be true for us. Okay, if both are false, what's going to happen?
False.
Exactly. Perfect. So we got this. And not is going to exactly reverse it for us. Okay, and the and or can also be denoted by these two symbols. So and symbol is for and then there's a line sign which you will be able to see above your most systems will have above your enter key. Okay, shift plus enter key के ऊपर जो key होता है, that is going to give you this straight line. Okay, so this is how it's our conditional flows work. Next we will move to using this conditional flow. These are useful when we are using if and else conditions. Okay, so we'll see how if else works. So now if condition is going to work like this. If and then the condition we have to apply here. This is our condition. There it has to be true or false thing. Okay, whatever we put here, it has to be converted into true or false. Okay, now this is our condition, age equal to less than or equal to 18. For example, we have it like this. For example, we have age equal to 23. Okay, now I'm checking a condition, age, is it less than equal to 18 or not? So if I execute it, what am I going to get?
False.
Yes, so I'm going to get a false here. Okay, so now I'm in a if statement here. Okay, this is false for me. If it was true, for example, it was more than equal to 18. Okay, so what's going to happen in this situation? If I execute it, I'm going to get an answer minor. Why? Because this is true. This has converted into true now. Okay, so this is true for us. That's why we are able to print minor here. Okay, but if the condition was like this, okay, where if is false, what we have to do is we have to type in a next part, which is else. But in this situation, if we did not have anything here, what will happen? Because this condition is now what? True or false? Yes, we are at false. So we are not going to get anything. Okay, but we need to have a backup here. To get a backup, we need to use else statement. Okay, so if fails, there is nothing that's working for this if, we directly move to the else part and it prints the else for us. Okay, this is how if statement works. Anybody has question till how this if statement work till this far?
No, sir.
Okay, now next part about the if else statement is elif. Okay, what if we want to check multiple conditions? Okay, so first condition is if age is 13 less than 13, then we are going to say child. And then if this condition is not true using the age that we are passing here, what we are going to do is we are going to move to the next stage, which is elif. Now we are going to check another condition which we wanted to put here, which is age is less than 20. If that condition is true, we are going to print teen. And then this is else is going to be our last resort, where all the above conditions were not true. That's why we printed else. However, if any of the statement got true at any position, the rest will not execute. Okay, if age 13 was true, less than 13, then we are only going to get child, and the rest of the things, if else and next part, is not going to execute. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is how if and else and else elif and else statement work. So any one of the part which is true, the next part of the statement is not execute. Okay, so I think for today we are going to stop at this only. Anybody has any questions so far? Because it has been a long session, and I think many of the people were confused about many other things. We had to repeat them again and again. So anybody has any questions so far, please ask me. Rest we will try to move ahead to the next or different session. You can write in the chat also in private if you want to ask me. All the things were clear so far, right? Whatever was explained.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. So if anybody has any question, please, they can ask me, or if not, then they can leave the class for today. And the rest of the things we will follow on a different session.
Okay.
This will be announced on WhatsApp. Probably it's going to be on Sunday morning.
Yes.
It's announced, sir, already.
Yeah.
9:30.
So in that session, we are going to extend from this programming, and we will have the pandas again. The pandas which has been covered already, it's not going to be covered then, but we will cover rest other stuff from Panda, which is quite interesting stuff. If there were things which were confusing and boring, I apologize
These,
because
these functions are declared are there in which package?
which functions?
These functions that we discussed today.
The function, these are Python default functions. All the functions that we have discussed, right? So these are default functions for example, the key function here. Okay, so this is dictionary's default function. Okay, these are called methods. Everything that we discussed are like not from any package. These are default functions and default methods which are given in the Python.
Like in Java, there is a class called object class. So they are all methods are declared. So here, are there any default package? So from which these are?
Yes, it follows exactly that kind of pattern, but everything is layered together. So we don't. So these are actually called objects. You are correct. So everything is an object in Python also. But we don't have to import that. We don't have to write the code in such way that we are defining it as an object. It's already an object. It's given. Is that what you were trying to ask?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything in Python is actually an object. So even the string that we have, str, that's also type is an object. It's kind of an object. Okay, internally it has been defined like that. So on that we have for string, for example, let's go back to it. So this is the string that we had, and on top of it we use the upper, right? So string object has been defined already. So when we created the text, this is creating a string object for us. So text is a strings object. Okay, so object class is right now the string str. When we do the type, it gives us, okay, what type of class that is, or what kind of object that is. So that text is a string object, and on that object we have, or that class we have few methods which are called upper, and the method which existed which is lower for the text. Okay, for the integer also we had similar kind of things there. Okay, so not integers but for list also. Okay, so for example, the index, when we did index.index, this is the method for the list class or list object. It's going to give us the index value, return us. Append, it's part of the list as list object. Insert is a method for the list object. Name is the, sorry, extend is the method for the list object again. Got it? Yes. Any other question?
No, sir.
Yeah. If you don't have a question, you may leave the chat, or you may leave the session for today. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to stop the recording also.